Welcome back to Echo Ridge and the start of an epic new Oxygen Not Included series. This time we're going to be colonizing every single planetoid on the star map. And since Clay just recently released their newest DLC, the Prehistoric Planet Pack, we're going to be starting on Relica Minor. That way we can highlight all the wonderful new content to include the dinosaurs, the big asteroid that threatens the planetoid, and all the other fauna that is found on Relica Minor. I'm also going to be making sure that the previous new planetoid, the Ceres fragment from the Frosty Planet Pack, will be found on the star map somewhere. That way we have a very interesting collection of planetoids that we're forced to colonize. We will be playing on normal difficulty with all the default settings, but I of course am going to try to roll a few times because I am a huge fan of the geoactive. I like starting on geoactive planetoids, that way we have plenty of vents and geysers to be able to tame. But the bad thing about that is when the giant asteroid hits the planetoid, all of those vents and geysers will start erupting. So it's probably a poor decision to start with a geoactive on Relica Minor, but when has that ever stopped us from doing something? After way too much re-rolling, I did find a beautiful start, metal-rich, geoactive, and geodes. And you may look at this as 3 positives, but remember, because we're starting on Relica Minor, when that asteroid hits us, it's going to make every single volcano on the planetoid erupt. So geoactive is sort of a bittersweet selection. While yes, it'll allow us to tame a lot more vents and geysers, giving me more potential of what I can show you, it's also going to be a pain in the tuchus once the asteroid hits us. Just to confirm, yes, all the story traits are active. I'm not sure which ones we'll tackle quite yet, but without further ado, let's make sure this seed loads. Now, I know I mentioned earlier that this is the Max Colonization series, but I wanted to be able to at least highlight what those goals will be. At a minimum, every planetoid must be colonized by at least 2 duplicants and a mini-pod. Furthermore, we need to be able to get access to all of the late game resources: Visco Gel, Thermium, and of course my personal favorite, Supercoolant. Finally, we need to have a sophisticated rocketry program that is not only able to reach every planetoid, with some planetoids acting as gas stations if required, but also send and receive materials from each planetoid. Let me know in the comments below if you think there should be other stipulations we put in the series. To start off with, I am going to be printing mostly standard duplicates, but fear not, we will definitely be colonizing at least one of the planetoids with bionic duplicates. We are starting with my typical digging, researching, and ranching farmer, and after a little bit of re-rolling, these are the dupes that we came up with. And as the standard, I will be naming the dupes after our Patreons and YouTube members. Just try to remember, we are not going to be printing out as many dupes as we did last time, so not everyone will get their name in the colony. I just grab the roster, use a random names picker, and who we get is who we get. So welcome to the colony, Josh Manchester, Glenn Sullivan, and S. Piercer. What do we have going on here to start with? Here is our research portal. We will be going to unlock this so I can talk a little bit more about a giant asteroid flying towards us. Doesn't seem to be any thermal issues. We do have a nice convenient water right here, so I think we will start by going over. I'd rather not dig up this overgrow node because it can be a source of food, so I will try to scoot by it. That way we can put some bathrooms here and then maybe some cots right here. Let's let them start building. We do need to start by talking about some of the new resources that you'll find on Relica Minor. Nickel, which is pretty comparable to cobalt, is the new ore. Shale is sort of your sedimentary rock or granite, what have you. And then there is peat. Peat's going to become vitally important as it has purposes in cooking and in power generation. We also have a couple of new critters, starting with the lum that will end up producing that peat for us. It also works out well with the sweat corn stalk that requires peat as its fertilization. More on those little guys here in the future. Most of our digging is done, so let's not slow around and give dupes too much idle time. This is all going to be pretty temporary. I'm not exactly sure where we're and how we're going to get set up. I say that knowing that by temporary, it's probably going to be several hundred cycles. Let me actually keep going down something like this, and then we'll keep going down. That way we have a small carbon dioxide sink. Don't need to dig all that out yet though. I just want to be able to get a few cots down And now that those basic necessities in, we will start our ladder run up here so that we can unlock the research portal. I decided to make this shaft a little bit bigger since all the carbon dioxide is going to be floating down, but I also want the oxygen to be able to float up. And I figured this is probably a good spot for our wheel. And that way all the carbon dioxide generated by the dupes still has a place to go. And as the usual, we put the research station right up here. That way we get the well-lit buff coming off the now forgotten printing pod. I did not connect the wheel yet to the research station just in case the research station is completed first. The dupes will not end up running on the wheel forever just to power the research station. We always try to make sure that the battery is connected first. You'll also notice I left a 2-tile spot in between the battery and the wheel, and that's because that's where the large battery is going to go in. Early oxygen generation is going to be algae. If we go over to our organic pane, you can see there is algae floating around here. Not a lot of deposits as I was expecting though. We'll have to make do. Algae is one of the materials I'll bring up to track, as is peat, dirt, and let's say nickel ore. I normally don't mess around too much with priorities in the early game, but I do want to make sure that Glenn Sullivan is the only one doing research, and I suppose while I'm here we'll make sure that Josh is doing the majority of the building and digging, and then we'll set farming and ranching for S. Piercer. As for our first research, we will get working on the power regulation just because the jumbo battery is just so good compared to the small battery. And here it is at the end of cycle 1. Bathrooms check, cots are in, power generation and research is in, and cycle 2 will start heading up towards the research portal. We definitely need to disable the disinfect on the outhouses. A lot of folks asked me in the beginning of series, why don't I just disable disinfect? Well, the reason why I don't is because if I see a dupe disinfecting, for instance, the pitcher pump, it tells me that there's something wrong. Something isn't set up right, or maybe there's an alternate exit from the bathrooms, and those are the type of germs I want to pay attention to. We have some idlers as research is finished up. We will make sure that the jumbo batteries put in, and then start digging our farm where we're going to be growing our sweat corn. Don't see why we can't just put it over here. So we will dig a decent size area, just like that. I will keep 2 of these tiles undug though for now, and put a door in here, and you'll see why here in a few. Speaking about food options here on Relica Miner, there are several, but there is really just one good answer. You could ranch the lums. Unfortunately, when the lums die, they produce tough meat, which you have to put into the smoker, wait an entire cycle, and then it'll give you tender brisket on the other side. Now, it's not as bad as it appears. You may look at it and be like, well, one entire cycle in the smoker, plus the smoker also needs either 100 kilos of peat or wood. You get 16,000 calories on the other side. Additionally, it only requires 6 kilos, where the lum actually drops 12 kilos when it dies. With all that being said though, the lum's reproduction rate is not very high, and we'll go over more lum math way in the future. So that leaves us with the sweat corn stock, which is what we are going to be throwing in here. The sweat corn is going to require 10 kilos per cycle of peat as fertilization, but also requires pollination, and we get pollination by the new mimicas. Now, mimicas come from the mimica bud, which is fertilized with 10 kilos worth of dirt, but once every 5 cycles will give you a new butterfly. Relica Miner is not so different in the fact that we also have our one-off foods, and in this case it is the Snacktus. In fact, here's one right here, 800 calories worth. I want to make sure that we are grabbing all those snack fruits and putting them in our ration box. Before we can even start with the sweat corn, we are going to need the planter boxes, so that is up next on the research. And we also have a research portal ready to be unlocked. The research portal is very similar to the one in the Frosty Planet pack, that when a dupe finally gets up there and goes and unlocks it, which apparently it is a research errand, so the only dupe that can do it is Glenn Sullivan, until I allow Josh Manchester. And after a few minutes of kicking the machine, we get one of the awesome tubes, and it tells us that we've unlocked the blast shot maker and the meteor blaster, which is much earlier than we would have in the past. But more interestingly enough, it shows us the asteroid, Demolior, and then calculates its impact zone. We get a new UI element up here, And I will turn this back on for a second so we can see the area that will be destroyed if we let the asteroid hit. And it also has a countdown saying we only have 198.3 cycles before it comes. Now, unlike the standard ammunition that we used to use in the meteor blasters, the blast shots, this asteroid requires the intracosmic blast shot. Because instead of just hitting meteors that are coming down locally, you're actually sending them through the star map all the way over to the temporal tear, where the Demolior came from. And that's probably the last time I'm going to try to pronounce that word. I just prefer big asteroid, but you can see the path that the asteroid's going to take, and once again, its eventual destruction. Now, I did a poll about a week ago in preparation for this series, and asked everybody, what would you prefer we did? Destroy the asteroid or let it hit? To no one's surprise, everybody just wanted more chaos and they want me to let it hit. But I think what we're going to do is the best of both worlds. I'm going to do everything it takes to blast it out of the sky and then save the last round. For those of you not aware, it takes 100 of these interstellar blast shots. We are only going to shoot 99 at it. We also may play with the save game so that I can show you it being destroyed, but eventually we will revert to the fact that we do not destroy it. We allow the asteroid to hit, which is going to cause every vent and geyser to start erupting, and then we'll recover from it, which kind of stinks, because when you do destroy Demolier, it leaves behind 3 new point of interest in space. But it's okay, I understand. You want more chaos. Our dupes have just finished up planter boxes, and now we need to figure out how much to plant. The math starts easy and then gets a little squirrely. Let me show you what I mean. When we are domesticating the sweat corn, after 3 cycles, we're given 800 calories, or 266.67 calories per cycle. No big deal, right? So we normally would say, okay, well, I need 4 sweat corns in order to feed a dupe the 1,000 calories it needs per cycle. Well, the sweat corn's a little different in the fact that it requires it to be pollinated. And it's pollinated by mimica, or as I often refer to them as butterflies. It receives a 25% growth speed bonus. Now, rate change math is not my favorite and always makes me go a little squirrely. But the long and short of it is, if the sweat corn is growing at 125% speed, it's not going to take 3 cycles to grow. It instead is only going to take 2.4 cycles to grow. If you want to figure out the math, you basically take the old rate of growth, which is 100%, divide it by the new rate of growth, which is now 125%, and you end up with 80%. Well, 80% of 3 cycles is 2.4 cycles. Well, when we take the 800 calories that we're going to be given and divide it by 2.4 cycles, we're given a new calorie per cycle rate of 333.33. So every duplicant only requires 3 sweat corns. I'm going to choose this nice little bristly green for our sweat corns, and I will start them here. Not that we have enough of those seeds yet, but eventually. But if I just plant them flat out, they will not grow because they require pollination. It's not just a bonus. So I will copy all these settings and put all the sweat corn in, but now we need to start growing some amica buds. In order to make sure that the plants are always going to be pollinated, we need to make sure there's always a butterfly in here doing the work. Well, mimica bud, when domesticated, produces a mimica every 5 cycles. But the mimica itself only lives for 5 cycles. So you might think, well, I only need 1 mimica bud. I'll use the different color planter box to represent our mimica buds. And this would work. Well, mostly. Sometimes the butterflies don't get to each and every plant, so I like to have a little bit of overlap. So I'm going to make sure that I have, with this many sweat corns, 2 mimica buds, except I'm going to wait until this one is grown 50%, and then I'll plant the second. That way there's a little bit of overlap. Whew, that sounded like it was more complicated than it really needed to be, but I couldn't think of a better way to explain it. Since we are already here in basic farming, we might as well grab meal prep so that we can get access to the mess table. And I will keep digging around for all of the snack this and to see if we can find some more sweat corn like right in here. You may have also noticed that all of the oxalate is already gone, so I should probably put in an oxygen diffuser, and already it's time for our new dupe. Question is, where am I going to put this oxygen diffuser? This seems like a decent spot. I'll also want to put in a storage bin for our algae, and let's see what the pod has provided us. What I'd really like is a cook, or maybe another digger, but none of these dupes really fit that bill. Yeah, 2 of them start with super hard digging, but they wouldn't be primary diggers. I could get another early researcher, which I suppose isn't too bad. They're only squeamish and gastrophobic, and Bert here starts with a +3 athletics, and having 4 dupes at the start is really the way I like to go. So welcome to the colony. Duplicate number 4, Fallout Stan. Means I'll also need to put in another cot. Fallout Stan will already get advanced research, and I suppose I should start setting up our alternate schedules. I love the new UI. We can just add a new schedule and then shift it. And I will put Stan and S Piercer down here. And there we go, not too shabby. I will connect some power into our oxygen diffuser. How much algae? I only have 1.3 tons of algae to keep my eyes open for it too. Now we do already have access to the blast shot maker, which is somewhat important because we're going to need to start making those intercosmic blast shots. But I think we're really going to start gearing up for it in the next episode. But one of the ingredients that we're going to be using heavily to make those intercosmic blast shots is peat. Additionally, our sweat corns require peat. I'm also going to try to open this door, see if I can get this butterfly to fly in here. In the meantime, I will also select algae on this storage bin and put it down to a priority of 4. If I can trap this butterfly, they're only 3 cycles old, and a lot of times they will fly over to what needs to be pollinated, but it looks like they're having too much fun pollinating the overgrow node. Come on, little butterfly. Come on. The door's open. You just gotta fly right in. But the reason why I was talking about peat has to do with the lums. We are going to start ranching the lums. Unfortunately, it requires the critter ranching, and we still don't even have that first skill point, never mind the second. But it doesn't mean I can't start by getting that research in. So let's head towards advanced research. And since we're stopping to get the water cooler, means we can probably start setting up a mess hall. Oh, the butterfly's in. Shut the door. Shut the door. And you can see now that the sweat corn has been pollinated, it is starting to grow. Where am I going to put the mess hall? I suppose down here is not too bad. This area over here is still lower, so all of that carbon dioxide will sink down in here. But as a matter of fact, there's a lot of algae here, so I'm going to keep digging down. So this will be our carbon dioxide sink. And since we're going down there, I'll grab some of that delicious algae, save room for the water cooler and whatever plant, and throw in 4 mess tables. Right on time, the water cooler finishes up. It goes in. I have a couple of selections here, so I think we're going to use the Weepy Blue. And once we finish advanced research, I will go down here to grab the flower pot, because for some reason, you still can't plant flowers inside of a planter box. Here's a good example here. Notice this butterfly is sitting around, and in this time it has only pollinated 3 of the sweat corn stalks. It's getting to some of the others, but this is all wasted growth time. We're still doing okay at 12,000 calories, but still. Supercomputer is ready. I would like to be able to move this ration box into a carbon dioxide pit. One that is right next to our mess hall would be best. So I will dig that out like that. Put some ladders. In fact, I'll build it with the tiles now. That way I don't have to stare at the algae that we could be using. We do have access to put the ration box right in there. And that way our food will sit in a carbon dioxide pit and stay fresh for longer. It's going to take a while for enough carbon dioxide to sit in there, but it's a good start. So now I can copy settings from this one, paste it into that, deconstruct this one, dig up the rose bush, and our supercomputer will go right there. And for shame, I wasn't using our fancy retro LED research station. Actually, I don't think that fits the vibe, does it? We'll use the classic. Supercomputer is going in, and look at that, we're already up to advanced research. And Fallout Stan can already do advanced research, so we might as well get plugging away. I don't have any need for any industry right now, so I think I'm just going to go directly into ranching and animal control. I'm waiting for our cook to be able to unlock the smoker, because you can't cook any of the sweat corn in a normal grill. It has to be in the smoker. Some of our outhouses are already starting to get half full, so I need to prepare for that polluted dirt. I want to have a place where I can store all the polluted dirt and polluted water, and I'd like to keep it behind these sinks. So what I've been doing lately is making a dirty area of our colony where it doesn't matter if the dupes pick up germs over here because they have to go past the sinks. There's also another reason why we're going to be storing and collecting all this polluted water, but that has to do with, once again, the intercosmic blast shots, and we're not quite there yet. And I don't even see what I'm talking about, which is the sea comb. So, alright, we'll find it eventually as we do more digging. Since we printed our 4th dupe, I need to remember to plant them some food as well. We're still missing a couple of seeds. It looks like there's some in here. Grab those. And we can also dig up through here and grab all of these. Here's our little polluted water storage, and it's going to also be collecting polluted dirt. And that way the polluted dirt won't off-gas because it'll be sitting in water. Now the polluted water will off-gas. In fact, I think I want to put this somewhere else. Maybe I'll put a tile right here because I'm going to want a wonderful deodorizer to go right here. That way none of the polluted oxygen escapes until we get a nice little layer of carbon dioxide that prevents the polluted water from off-gassing. We are nearing 50% with this mimica bud, so it's time to plant the second one. We're also starting to run low at 8,000 calories, which is only enough for 2 more cycles. I'd like to find a couple more carrots, and it looks like there is one in here. That'll be fine, I'm sure. And if we really get desperate, there's 4 more snacknesses up here, but I think we're going to be fine. They finished up this room over here for our polluted water and polluted dirt. We can't select polluted water yet because we haven't discovered it, despite the sinks already having plenty of it. I also like to take my priorities on the toilets and increase them to a 6. And that way people are Johnny on the spot and get them cleaned. Ooh, I completely walked right over a snackness right there. We also have a couple of sweat corns that we're ready to harvest as well. There's another butterfly that was just born up here. So I'm going to try to open the door to get it in. Oh, look at it. You can even see when you have it highlighted where it's moving to. Yes. Come here, little butterfly. Then we'll shut that door. Our first mimica is done growing. No. Go back inside. Go back inside, quick! Oh, now I gotta play this game. After a little fussing, I've managed to get 2 butterflies in here. That will really help. And it's time for our next pot already. Oh, I'm definitely taking the sand. I was thinking about Ari because they have the cooking, but they have a lot going on here. Not to mention they're a kitchen menace, so they would start with a -1 to cuisine. That's gonna about do it here in our first episode. We didn't get as much done as I would have liked, which is pretty typical for the first one in the series because we talk about the colony selection, what the goals of the series are, and then we also had to talk about that big asteroid. Let me know in the comments below what you're most looking forward to in this series, or just leave your favorite emoji, as it really does help the engagement of the video. So until next time, much love, happy gaming, and I'll talk to you soon.